pressure on all the time.
Let's get it. Let's go to war.
Hey!
So keep it up. Keep up the effort now. Hey, wait a minute. Come on, let's get out there, Sean.
Call up the pitch, Jay. Call up the pitch. And let's attack the zone like this.
Let's see if we can get the forwards to score off their forwards.
You got to go to the forwards. You got to stay down, play defense.
All right, let's keep playing fast.
All your shots are back rim. That's a good sign.
This is the road to the championship. The story of Marquette University's great triumph in the 1977 NCAA Basketball Championship. Presented by the Lincoln National Life Insurance Company of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Hello, everybody. I'm Bill Fleming. I'm speaking to you from the floor of the Omni in Atlanta, Georgia. This was the scene just moments ago of the finale of the NCAA Basketball Championship of 1977. The Warriors of Marquette University cut the nets down for their first NCAA title. During this next half hour, we're going to show you the road to the championship. Through the courtesy of our sponsor, Lincoln National Life Insurance Company of Fort Wayne, Indiana, we invite you then to go with us for this next 30 minutes and watch basketball at its best. At Provo, Utah, it's the championship game of the NCAA West Regional, a showdown between Idaho State and the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. To reach this game, these teams beat two of the best. The Idaho State Bengals upset UCLA in the regional semifinal, while Vegas in the opening round defeated San Francisco, the #1 team in the country for part of the 1977 season. Las Vegas, wearing the white uniforms in this game, came out running like they did all year long. Idaho State in the red uniforms played outstanding basketball. Their offense centering around number 33, Steve Hayes, their 7-footer. However, the game remained close in that first half because of cold field goal shooting by Las Vegas. In the first half, the Rebels didn't look like the team that had a season scoring average of 107 points per game. It was nip and tuck all the way. From the field, Vegas shot only 43% compared to Idaho State's 51%. Thanks to shots like this one by number 30, Greg Griffin, the halftime score was Idaho State 52-51. However, Vegas literally exploded in the second half. They scored on plays like this one, a stuff by number 11, Eddie Owens. They scored on Tony Smith's outside shooting. And they did it on tough defense. Watch this play by number 23, Reggie Theus, who steals the ball, misses the shot, but big Larry Moffett follows with the rebound. Again, Reggie Theus steals the ball. This time, number 23 doesn't miss. He really makes sure. In the end, the speed and bench strength of Vegas simply wore down Idaho State, resulting in another century-plus victory for Las Vegas, 107-90. 5 Vegas players scored in double figures. And so the Rebels and their coach, Jerry Tarkanian, were the Western Regional Champions. Significantly, for the first time in 11 years, UCLA would not be among the Final Four. In the Eastern Regional Championship game between North Carolina and Kentucky, North Carolina starter and Olympian Tommy Lagarde was a spectator because of a torn cartilage in his left knee. And number 24, another Olympian from North Carolina, Walter Davis, played with a fractured finger on his shooting hand. Despite his painful injury, Davis had a remarkable first half. He scored 15 points and pulled down 5 rebounds as North Carolina jumped to a 12-point halftime lead, 53-41. But things changed quickly in the opening minutes of the second half here at College Park, Maryland. Kentucky, the co-champions of the Southeastern Conference, rallied behind the clutch shooting of Jack Givens, cutting North Carolina's lead to only 6 points. At this point, North Carolina kept its poise. With 15 minutes to go in the game, the Atlantic Coast Conference champions switched to their famous 4-corner offense under the direction of number 15, John Houston. Normally, the 4 corners is directed by All-American Phil Ford, but he was on the bench with his 4th personal foul and a painful right elbow. Down the stretch, Houston was simply sensational, playmaking, shooting, and on defense. His 6 successful free throws in the final minutes, all in 1-on-1 situations, enabled North Carolina to win this one 79-72, a thrilling victory over the Wildcats of Kentucky. The nation's top-ranked team, Michigan, and 17th-ranked University of North Carolina, Charlotte, met in the Mid-East Championship at Lexington, Kentucky. The coaches Johnny Orr of Michigan on the left, Lee Rose of North Carolina, Charlotte on the right. The Mean Green of Charlotte wearing white uniforms in this game and playing in an NCAA tournament for the very first time. Fielded a talented team with many outstanding players. Among them, number 23, Lou Massey, scoring here. And an exciting 6'8" senior by the name of Cedric Cornbread Maxwell, number 33. What a shot. Massey and Maxwell provided Charlotte with board strength. But early in the game, Michigan countered with a weapon of its own, blazing speed. The Wolverine trademark all season long. Number 24 for the Wolverines is Ricky Green. Here he steals the ball, literally flies down the court to score on the slam dunk. And speaking of dunks, Charlotte's Chad Kinch did it this way. Michigan Olympian and all Big Ten center Phil Hubbard came up with key baskets time after time. However, Charlotte jumped to a surprising 40-27 halftime lead, led by Cornbread Maxwell. The Wolverines had to scrap for every point they got. The Wolverines had been in many tight ball games before. After all, they had reached the NCAA finals a year ago, only to lose out in that final game to Indiana. They hammered away at the lead, and finally, they took the lead by a single point with 11 minutes and 58 seconds to go in the game. But this was not to be Michigan's day. It was to be a day of glory for the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. The 49ers went on to upset number 1 ranked Michigan 75-68 and to earn a trip to the NCAA championship in Atlanta. The biggest moment in Coach Lee Rose's basketball career. Meanwhile, at Oklahoma City in the Midwest Regional Final, an inspired Marquette team was taking on tough Wake Forest. With a regular season record of 20-7, there had been some doubt about Marquette receiving an invitation to the NCAA tournament. Al McGuire, the retiring Marquette coach, admitted that later when we visited him at his office on the campus at Marquette.
I, as a matter of fact, was planning my vacation the last 2 weeks. And when we got the bid, we were playing hot. We were getting on top of our game. And when we got the bid, I thought they had confidence. And we went out against Cincinnati at Omaha. And we're down at halftime. And it had a little bit to do with Bernard Toone at that time. We had a verbal and physical get-together. After that, we went out the second half, and we started to move uptown. So once we got by Cincinnati, which was an outstanding ball club, I thought then we were off to the races.
In 1974, Marquette missed an NCAA championship by 1 game. They were runners-up to North Carolina State. In the battle against Wake Forest, Marquette experienced shooting problems in the first half. As a result, Wake Forest led 35-31 at halftime. Al McGuire talked strategy in a language that often requires an interpreter. He started off by talking about Wake Forest All-America Skip Brown.
Skip Brown was their key, and we went to a box 1, which cuts the guy's head right off. There's nobody can score against the box 1, especially if he's a guard. And they tried a couple of 4 corners against us, and they came up dry. The 4 corners is a 2-edged sword. You either win big with it, or you end up in Tap City.
Marquette's answer to Skip Brown was their own All-America guard, Butch Lee. The Warriors in the second half were firing on all 5 cylinders, with each man playing some of the best basketball of his career. Certainly providing a lot of offense was number 31, Bo Ellis. He finished the game with a high of 20 points. Then there was number 33, Bernard Toone. This 6'9" sophomore came off the bench when starting center Jerome Whitehead picked up his 4th foul early in the second half. In all, Toone scored 18 points, all in the second half of play. And when it was all over, the scoreboard read Marquette 82, Wake Forest 68. And Al McGuire spoke confidently about Marquette's chances at the finals in Atlanta.
So fortunately, Wake Forest missed a couple of key layups, and then we blew them out of there. And then it was off to the races. Then I thought after that, at any club in the Final Four that would beat us would have to have an excellent ball game.
And so it was on to Atlanta, Georgia, to the spectacular modern building called the Omni. That would be the scene which, for this weekend, would be the basketball capital of the world. One of these four teams would emerge as the 39th NCAA basketball champion. North Carolina, Charlotte. Marquette, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, or the University of North Carolina. In the first semifinal game, it's North Carolina, Charlotte against Marquette. Coaches Al McGuire and Lee Rose had a friendly word with each other before the game. Both teams started slowly. Charlotte was cold, and they were hurrying their shots. Marquette, patient, looking for the good shot. When Marquette missed, they relied on brute strength under the boards, getting tough rebounding from powerful number 54, Jerome Whitehead. Jim Boylan gave Marquette ball handling. His shot here put the Warriors ahead 23-9. The Mean Green had called timeout to get things organized.
It didn't matter getting one shot, they get 4 or 5.
They were tight. This was the showtime. It was something that they have never experienced before, their staff or their fans or anything else. And we got them early. I thought if we can go out and be a little bit more aggressive on defense, that they'll tighten up. We got going, then all of a sudden they found themselves and played their regular game.
And their regular game was going to Cornbread Maxwell. In the next 6 minutes, Charlotte outscored Marquette 13-2. At halftime, Charlotte trailed by only 3. Charlotte, a Division I basketball team only since 1972, had staged a strong first-half comeback. Their momentum carried over. The 49ers tied the game 26-all as number 32, Melvin Watkins, connected on this shot. A minute later, Big Lou Massey popped in 2 straight jump shots. This one gave Charlotte its first lead of the ball game. The 49ers stayed in front for about the next 8 minutes. In fact, they led by as many as 5 points, but they couldn't put it away. Marquette refused to panic and eventually regained the lead as Jerome Whitehead scored on this rebound with less than 10 minutes to play. The Jerome Whitehead show continued. He scored the next 3 Marquette baskets. He looked unstoppable under the offensive and defensive boards. Marquette held the lead for 5.5 minutes. But then Lou Massey scored to put Charlotte ahead. Now the pressure was on Marquette. They called on their great guard Butch Lee, and he came through with this long jumper, cutting Charlotte's lead to 1. The clock running. Now less than a minute to play. Charlotte ahead, 47-46. Desperately trying to get the ball, Marquette proceeded to foul Cornbread Maxwell. The strategy worked. It was a 1-and-1 foul situation, and Maxwell missed. Marquette got the ball. Again, Butch Lee hitting on a tremendous clutch shot. And that put Marquette in front, 48-47. 13 seconds to go. And seconds later, Marquette's Gary Rosenberger made only 1 of 2 free throws. Charlotte called timeout to map their strategy for the final 10 seconds.
I always alternate my defense if you call timeout on me. I was playing at that time a 1-2-2 zone. And I went to a box 1 and I put on a kid named Maxwell. Cornbread gets the ball and makes an unbelievable shot.
It was an amazing shot. Straight in, no backboard. Immediately, Marquette called timeout. Maxwell's game-tying basket, at least to this fan, was mind-boggling. With 3 seconds to go in the game, Al McGuire discussed the final plans.
The first thing that I worried about was would Butch throwing the ball down court, because he had no other choice. We had to do exactly what the Russians did against the United States in the 1972 Olympics. And I went down to check the height of the scoreboard. When I went down where Butch was going to throw in from, I said, oh, okay, Butch, you can let it go. You can't hit it up there.
Lee just heaved the ball. Whitehead got it, shot, and the ball dropped in. The scoreboard showed no time, no points registered. But did the ball go in before the buzzer?
I went out to the outside official, and I went, good, good. He checked the other official, then he went over to the timer. And the timer is going to have to receive some type of award, because he must have thought that everyone was going to tear him apart. Because from one side were all the Charlotte fellas, and from the other side were all the Marquette fellas. And the referee said, now take your time. was the ball in the basket? And he said, yes, the ball was in the basket.
What an unbelievable finish. Perhaps the most exciting ever in NCAA tournament history. Marquette, on a shot at the buzzer, beats North Carolina Charlotte. The final play meant so much, let's take a look at it again. Whitehead makes a super effort to get the ball and then to get it going toward the basket.
Close call. It could have been charging, it could have been blocking, it could have been, they could have been goaltending, it could have been offensive goaltending. Those 2 seconds have been run over more than any 2 seconds in the history of basketball, I think.
And so the Warriors had made it to the finals. They would meet the winner of the second semifinal game, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and North Carolina. And both rooting sections were dedicated to outscreaming the other.
Now, if they're man-to-man, run the man-to-man offense. But if they're in the zone, you clap out with these guys flaring.
Let's do it for the defensive end. Then we'll get our break in gear. Hey, you look beautiful.
Here we go, Charlie. Here we go. Here we go, Charlie.
North Carolina fans and the capacity crowd of more than 16,000 here in the Omni quickly learned why the University of Nevada, Las Vegas led the nation in scoring with 107 points per game. To nobody's surprise, the Rebels came out running and shooting against the Tar Heels. North Carolina All-America Phil Ford was cold in the beginning, and his shooting was off the mark. Vegas capitalized and scored on beautiful plays like this. Number 25, Glenn Gondrzak, drives, crosses over, scores on a left-handed layup. The Rebels also displayed quickness on the boards. But North Carolina wasn't about to be intimidated. This driving layup by Mike O'Koren made it 25-all with more than 9 minutes left in the first half. However, moments later, number 42 for Vegas took command. Larry Moffitt was everywhere and did everything. He scored 4 straight baskets. Some of them were just unbelievable. And some were spectacular, like this slam dunk. That gave Vegas a 37-29 lead. As the first half came to a close, Mike O'Koren scored a pair of baskets for North Carolina. And at halftime, it was a 49-43 ball game with the Rebels halfway home. Yet to be reckoned with, however, was All-American Phil Ford, who put on a dazzling performance in the second half for North Carolina. And then Vegas experienced some bad luck. Larry Moffitt had to leave the game when he was accidentally popped on the nose by teammate Glenn Gondrzak, right here. North Carolina immediately took advantage of his absence. On the next play, Custer passing to O'Koren, who scores in a driving layup. He was fouled in the process, and his free throw ties the game at 55-all. Ford apparently was not bothered by his injured right elbow because he put Carolina ahead by 4 with more than 15 minutes to play. And then Sam Smith of Vegas cut the lead back to 2. For the next 11 minutes, North Carolina controlled the game, led by Phil Ford and Mike O'Koren. Ford's exceptional passing to O'Koren produced 4 Tar Heel baskets. Certainly Ford's brilliant play came as no surprise. He had helped the United States win a gold medal at the 1976 Montreal Olympics. On the other hand, O'Koren was just a freshman, and as you can see, a very talented one. And so as the clock ticked away, the pressure was on Las Vegas. This Tony Smith shot narrowed North Carolina's lead to 79-77. The Rebels were flying again. And they were playing aggressively on defense, sometimes too aggressively, committing fouls in order to get the ball. Here they fouled North Carolina guard John Custer. Only 59 seconds to go in the game as Custer goes to the free throw line. He had played exceptionally well in the regionals, and he made this 1-1, putting North Carolina ahead by 4. But Tony Smith came right back, hitting a jump shot from the circle. And then it was back to the free throw line with John Custer. In all, Custer made 5 of 6 free throws in the last 59 seconds, all coming on pressure 1-on-1 situations. The Rebels' Sam Smith scored the final basket at the buzzer, but it wasn't enough. and the Rebels fell 1 point short. North Carolina wins the game 84-83, led by Michael Corrin's 31 points. And so the names were slid into the scoreboard for the final game. Marquette against North Carolina. And a capacity crowd jammed the amp. The focus of attention centered on this man, 48-year-old Al McGuire. Win or lose, this game would be Al McGuire's last hurrah. The colorful Marquette coach was saying goodbye to college basketball, a sport that he had coached for 20 years, and his close friend and rival coach, Dean Smith, wished him luck.
It's been a dynamite season, okay? Stay alive on the bench, play to the best of your ability. That's all anybody can ask him.
I'm here all over for you, Tar. Don't let us know if you're tired. All of us here together. We're going to do it.
Marquette gave North Carolina something to worry about right from the start when number 31, Bo Ellis, came outside, scored the Warriors' first basket from 20 feet away. Marquette's next 6 points were scored by number 15, Butch Lee. And he scored on moves like this, moves that he probably picked up while playing basketball in the schoolyards of New York City. In the first half, North Carolina couldn't solve Marquette's shifting zone defenses. The Tar Heels had trouble working the ball inside. Consequently, they were forced to shoot from the perimeter, and oftentimes they got only one shot. One time, Phil Ford did get inside, and he didn't miss. As expected, Marquette was patient on offense, taking their time, setting up their plays, and along the way, Bo Ellis controlled the backboards for the Warriors. Unfortunately for North Carolina, no one could control Butch Lee. Just watch this play. He goes from one end of the court to the other. A great solo move. In the first half, he got 15 points. The great Marquette defense held Phil Ford to 6 points. And the Warriors went to the dressing room with a 12-point halftime lead, causing Al McGuire to use superlatives in describing his team's first half play.
We probably played the best 20 minutes of basketball in my 25, 30 years of being in basketball, especially defensively. We were on top of it. We were dynamite on the defensive end. And offensively, for us to have 37 points, is an awful lot of points for Marquette University. And went in at halftime, and what I always say to the guys, I said, hey, there's 20 minutes to go. Now, we cannot relive these 20 minutes. So let's give the so-called maximum effort and have no excuse when we come back in.
When the teams came back on the court for the second half, North Carolina was ready to play too, in the words of their coach, Dean Smith.
At halftime, we were 12 points down, and against a ball-controlled team such as Marquette, that is much more difficult to make up as it would be against a running team such as Las Vegas, Nevada.
North Carolina was back in the ball game. Al McGuire had to call timeout. He couldn't believe what had happened. North Carolina had outscored Marquette 14-2 in the first 4 minutes.
Our players did an outstanding job at the beginning of the half in hitting their open shots, forcing steals with their defense, pressure defense, and of course you have to hit the shots. We did not make our shots against their zone, however. We were making them on our transition on the break, after we got a rebound, or after a steal. We recognized this that when we caught up to 41-41, there was 15:40 yet to play, so in 4 minutes and 20 seconds, we were able to do away with their 12-point lead. That in itself was an amazing feat.
From the corner, number 24 for North Carolina, Walter Davis again tied the score, making it 43-all. Marquette appeared to be cracking. On this play, North Carolina's Tom Zalgiris intercepts an inbounds pass, outraces Butch Lee to put North Carolina ahead, 45-43. Then, with less than 13 minutes remaining in the game, the score tied at 45-all, North Carolina went into its four-corner delay offense for several minutes. This gave Marquette and Al McGuire plenty of time to regroup.
Coach went to his four corners, which I probably would have done too. He went to his four corners. We Mickey Moused the four corners. We wouldn't come out. We'd come out for the 5 count. The ref would say play because we were down by 2. Then we settled back after we come out back into our zone. And Dean didn't want to take us in the zone. He figured that he could take us better man-to-man, plus he had the lead. So, but this went on for about 2 or 3 minutes. It was like an orchestration. I was up giving an Elmer Gantry back and forth, and Dean was up doing his thing. But what happened, it dried their sweat and stopped their momentum. Then they missed the shot in 4 corners, fortunately for us. We scored down the other end, and then that was all she wrote. After that, we kind of just busted out.
And this breakaway bucket brought a gesture from Al McGuire that was unmistakable. He knew he had it.
With about 10 seconds left to go in the game, I emotionally got involved. I didn't think it was possible because I've always pictured myself as the, you know, knock the stick off my shoulder, and I get obnoxious and arrogant during ball games. Someone asked me what time it is. What do you want to know what time it is for? That type of thing. I go back to the streets of New York City. But the last 10 seconds, when I knew that was all she wrote, and that things just started flashing by, all the little joints I played basketball in the Belmont Abbey, you know, all the CYOs and PALs and things like that. And I just wished then that everyone would have a run like this, and that every coach at the college level could become one of the Final Four. It's more important becoming one of the Final Four than winning.
Moments later, the game ended. The final basket went to North Carolina, but the victory went to Marquette. The fans went wild. For Al McGuire, it was a bittersweet moment. He couldn't keep the tears back, and he didn't want to weep in public.
I left the court, and I went back into the locker room and got composed, and then came back on. And then, for a moment, I enjoyed it. It's been an extended love affair. It's been a merry-go-round that's been beautiful. So the merry-go-round stops, and I get off, and it starts for other guys. And I just hope that they do good by it. It's done very good by me. If there's any advice I can give coaches out there is be straight with your ball players, and they'll be straight with you.
I think that one note should be made in saying goodbye to Al McGuire. Basketball indeed loses one of its most colorful persons. We hope that he is successful in whatever endeavor lies ahead of him. We also want to thank him for joining us in making this a most enjoyable experience. So the road to the championship wound up at the doorstep of Marquette University. This is Bill Fleming thanking you for joining us on behalf of our sponsor, Lincoln National Life Insurance Company of Fort Wayne, Indiana.